their assault on Moscow. In the Nazis' first air raid alone, over 100 tons of high explosives and 46,000 firebombs were dropped over Moscow. The city above was devastated. But the ingenious engineering saved the metro and the people of the city. And because Moscow was able to survive the Nazi onslaught, these tunnels helped save the world from Hitler.
So this place isn't just civil transportation, it's also civil defense.
Right, exactly, to this day.
This is the blast door structure, very military looking, and all along here, this whole thing is basically part of the structure that protects people down here in the event of a bombing.
For years, Moscow citizens knew their metro stations could double as bomb shelters. What they didn't know was what lay below their subway system. Terrence is taking me to another station for a glimpse into the top-secret underworld beneath the Moscow underground. Chisty Prudy Station sits beneath the heart of Moscow. Because it was centrally located and sits 120 feet beneath the city, it was the perfect spot for a military headquarters. During World War II, this station was closed to the metro riding public.
The air defense staff met there. Stalin almost certainly came here.
Okay. So for the entire war, World War II, what is a subway station now was a command center for the army.
Right.
So you're saying all these portals would have been blocked off with plywood.
Right, so that nobody could see in.
Okay, so you got trains going by here. The public can't come in here because this is where the military's doing their business.
Amid rush hour traffic, these cavities in the middle of Chisty Prudy Station were used by the military. Trains could move through here, but would roll right by the station. And passengers were unable to see what was going on behind the plywood walls. But beneath this hidden command center, Stalin built an even more top-secret underground bunker. To this day, a highly classified system of tunnels remains hidden beneath the city. Absolutely no one is allowed access.
So this is an entrance to a bunker below this.
And the bunker is still intact.
Really?
Right, though nobody has been there for years and years and years.
You're talking about a bunker beneath this subway station that has always existed since its construction.
Since its construction.
Which was reserved for Joseph Stalin or VIPs.
Right.
The bunker is part of a vast military installation that lies below the metro, under the entire city of Moscow. Russians refer to it simply as Metro 2.
Metro 2, supposedly, is this immense network of underground metro tunnels, military command centers, bunkers extending throughout the city and out beyond the borders of the city to command posts in the south, the northeast, the southwest.
A secret railroad underground.
A secret railroad. In some places, an entire underground city.
And how do you know this? I mean,
there have been, the way it originally surfaced was in the newspapers in the early 1990s. You know, a neighbor of mine knows a woman, a pensioner, who worked as a cleaning lady for the KGB, and they took her to all of these places on a secret underground railroad.
Right.
And then gradually more and more details began to surface. And since knowledge of this first surfaced in the early 1990s, it's probably been Moscow's worst-kept secret.
And there is evidence that the U.S. government is also in on Moscow's secret. Terrence got his hands on a recently declassified Department of Defense document that shows Metro 2's general location.
I have a map. This is from a U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report. That's a rough schematic of the Metro 2 system.
So this is an official U.S. document?
Right.
I see. So in event of what? I mean, nuclear holocaust, the ultimate disaster, this other system exists to take care of the most important people.
Right. And they're still adding on to the system as far as we can tell. Right. Just like they're adding on to the public metro system.
Lots of secrets still underground, huh?
Absolutely.
The Kremlin still denies the existence of M2, but most Moscow locals believe that this remnant of Stalin's grand scheme is still secretly operating just beyond these walls.
We're not supposed to go down here, but I gotta look at this. Yeah, look at this. You can see this whole other world down here. You know, upstairs, the whole of Moscow is using the subway system. Little do they know, right beneath their feet is a military installation, a bunker system that even, it is suggested, goes further. 120 feet here, 300 feet down below, an entire mysterious secret railway system. Suggested evidenced by even U.S. documents, that it exists, but we're not allowed to see it. Nobody's allowed to see it. Moscow is secret all the way down.
One of the greatest threats to Stalin's utopian society was religion, so he made plans to crush Russia's most holy symbol with a symbol of the state, the Palace of the Soviets. To make room for Stalin's colossal palace, he knocked down the original Church of Christ the Savior. After the Soviet Union collapsed, the church was rebuilt on the same spot. But evidence of Stalin's megalomaniacal plans for his grand palace can still be found underground. But what you see above ground,
An incredible building.
is only part of a more massive complex, much of it underground. Even the main council hall was built 45 feet below ground level.
Right now we are in the hall of church councils, where the major events of church life take place under the guidance of the Patriarch, who is the head of the Russian Orthodox Church.
The first Cathedral of Christ the Savior was commissioned in 1812 by Alexander I to celebrate Russia's victory over Napoleon. When completed in 1883, it was instantly embraced by the people as the ultimate symbol of the Russian Orthodox Church. But just 48 years after its completion, Stalin ordered the monumental cathedral that held the heart and soul of its people razed to the ground. But 45 feet beneath the cathedral is evidence of that original church and of Stalin's master plans for his grand palace. Daria introduced me to Oleg Bogdanov, an engineering expert who knows the secrets behind Russia's most sacred building.
So the original cathedral that was here, what happened to that?
Что случилось с первоначальным собором?
Храм Христа Спасителя, к сожалению...
In 1931, it was pulled down, exploded, on the direct order of Stalin.
Why did he do that?
The communists had a unique aim. In the whole course of history, there hasn't been a single case of a nation without God. And that is something the communists aimed to achieve. There was no way for communism and orthodoxy to agree. They were absolutely rivals.
In only 6 days, with 3 massive explosions of TNT, Stalin crushed the Russian Orthodox Church's most sacred symbol. Anyone who objected to this wholesale demolition was exiled or killed, including tens of thousands of priests. Construction for a new building began soon after. The Palace of the Soviets was to be the cultural center of the entire nation. Plans for it reveal a circular structure rising over 1,300 feet with a 318-foot bronze statue of Lenin perched on top, making it over 50 feet taller than the Empire State Building, a symbol of the triumph of socialism. To build a foundation powerful enough to hold up such a massive building, Stalin's engineers tore down the hill on which the cathedral had once stood. Then they dug an enormous basin, 26 feet deep, and filled it with concrete 90 feet thick. The steel framework for the first 10 stories had been erected by 1941, but construction came to a screeching halt when Stalin found out Hitler had invaded the Soviet Union. As war raged around Moscow and resources ran thin, concrete and metal were stripped from the foundations to make bunkers and defenses to protect the city. The Russian people's most precious cathedral had been destroyed in vain, and the foundation of the Palace of the Soviets lay abandoned for 20 years. To get a sense of the scope of this undertaking, we head down to the basement of the church, 45 feet below the cathedral.
Look at this space here. This is the bottom of the church above, the basement. It's also inside the superstructure they had to build to bring the ground up to where it used to be. Joseph Stalin rips down a church to create a palace of communism. Communism fails. The people ask for their church back. They demand it. And in order to do that, they have to rebuild the hill and put an exact replica of the church right on top of it. So this superstructure is that hill, and we're standing beneath an exact replica. So it's 21st century technology hidden beneath a 19th century church. Throughout the 1930s, Stalin knew he would eventually have to face off with Hitler. To prepare for this deadly battle against superior German firepower, Stalin turned his capital into a fortress. Basically, everywhere he would need to be, he built a bunker directly beneath it. The Kremlin, government buildings, military headquarters, even a sports stadium, where Stalin would rally his people to stand and fight when the Nazis began their inevitable march towards Moscow.
Guarding Stalin from the Nazi war machine meant creating a direct